your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, Reverend Dr. D, and it is a pleasure to have you with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest who is going to share with us the latest work that he has. His name is Terry Conway. I don't know if it's any relation to Tim. Could be brothers. Who knows? Apparently not. But he's got a book that speaks to something that I'm not sure whether I believe or not. His book is entitled Business is Simple. Well, on the one hand, I wish it was, because it's so complicated, or at least it's been made that way. We're going to find out. Terry, first of all, thank you so much. We had quite a challenge just getting connected here, but we finally made it. That wasn't so simple, but again, my philosophy, as I mentioned a moment ago, is that there's always a workaround, and we found it, and here we are, and thank you for being with us.
No, thank you. All right. So,
tell me about this. How is it that you've come to the conclusion business is simple? How simple is it?
Well, the book is Business is Simple. All right. But it's not. It's chaos. But there is a structure to look at business in a very simple way. Mm-hmm. There's only really 3 parts to it for generating revenues. And that's what I have accumulated over my 55-year career. A way to communicate business that's a very simple way to compete for revenues and the essence of business, really. But it's normally business is chaos. I agree with that. Mm-hmm. But with the proper structure, it becomes a lot more simple.
Well, there are those who are having a real hard time with our current structure in this country specifically, and I know it's also an issue globally, in terms of, for example, because this is part of the business structure, capitalism and free enterprise. There are those who say it's there's an inequity and all of those kinds of things. And there's a part of me that has a problem because I'm in business. I mean, I work for a radio station and I do these programs and so forth. And I put out an ask for support for the program so that I can cover the various expenses needed in terms of, web hosting and all of those different things that are required. But then there are these commercials that we see that, in a manner of speaking, they're trying to get us to relinquish our hard-earned financial well-being in exchange for something we really don't need. I love going past car dealerships, and I'm looking over there going, you kidding me? You're using an inflatable Santa or an inflatable gorilla or an inflatable wiggly woggly thing, and on and on and on. And I know I've learned over the years, if it didn't work, they wouldn't do it. And I do not know. Apparently, it's almost along the lines of a cat who is going after prey. But if you wave something shiny and so forth at them, they'll go after that. And we seem to be that way when it comes to the consumer end of it. And business has learned how to take advantage of that in one sense. But there are those of us who don't buy into that. Is that part of this whole equation in terms of making businesses? No. Okay.
No, not at all. So I agree. Business as simple is a misleading statement. It is chaos. It is confusing. But there's a very simple structure to look at business. Okay. So any organization that competes for revenues is a business. And that's almost every business out there.
Right.
Now, how do they compete for revenues? This is not taught in school. At least I never had it.
Okay.
There's only 3 ways to generate revenues. First of all, continuously improve the quality of the products and value of your products, which is what you do. That's you continuously improve your podcast. Second of all, you have to process these products at a competitive advantage. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting money. Thirdly, you have to use marketing to develop leads. And then you have to have people who know how to close deals. Now, that's as simple as it can be. And that's the essence of business. That's how you compete for revenues. There's really no other way to address the chaos. Now, with that structure in mind, you can look at any business and run it through those three as essence of business, and you'll come out all right. Let me give you kind of a funny example. So the pastor of our church was telling me how he's wonderful at spiritual guidance, and this is what he does, and so forth. And I said, "Well, Reverend, you're really a businessman." He said, "Oh, no. I dispense spiritual guidance." Well, do you depend on revenues? Well, yeah. People have to put money in the basket. Do you have to have a place of worship that's comfortable and inviting? Well, yeah. Do you have to market to develop people interested in coming to your place of worship? Yes. And then, do you have people who close the deal? Now, good Reverend, how do you do that? Well, first of all, you kind of know everybody's name. You're available for any special kind of conferencing that they want to talk about, any kind of problem. But that's the essence of any business. I use that simple clergy one to demonstrate it.
Yeah.
But if you're making if you're an automobile dealer out there, first of all, you have to continuously improve your product,
right?
Which most of them don't do. Second of all, you have to have a facility where you demonstrate your used vehicles. That you have to have a competitive advantage for doing that. You have to do some marketing to get people to show up at your place where you demonstrate your cars. And then you have to have salespeople who know how to close deals.
Yeah.
Reverend, it's almost as simple as that. And I've accumulated this over a 55-year business career. I didn't learn this at school. Yeah. Nothing of it.
On the job training.
Rugged experience, in the line of fire. And I have to keep, when I bought the first business, it was chaos. But I had this structure where I said, okay, let's continue to improve our products. Okay. There's certain things that are not acceptable to the marketplace. We can fix those. We have to be able to process those at a competitive advantage. They have to have very efficient operations. We have to keep the operations full. Okay, well, we can do that. All right, then we've got to do a little marketing. Induce people to want to find out more about the product. And then, strangely enough, we have to have people who know how to close the deals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that ended up being my role, close the deals, get the product on the shelf, get it in distribution somewhere with Cisco or so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But that structure, those three things, how do you compete for revenues, that got me through the chaos of the first year or two that I owned a business. So that's why, yes, the title of the book is simple, but it's not. But the structure is simple.
Yeah. There's simple structure. 1 + 1 is 2. However, 1 is one thing, the plus is another, and then the third is another, and so forth. And you come out at the end with 2. But you have to do the work. I'm curious. Okay, so our initial example obviously is not that direction we want to go. But what role, if you will, does this simplicity, this structure play in either the capitalist or the entrepreneurial venture? Are those two different things, or are they two names for the same thing? And how does this simplicity, this structure, fit into either of those?
Well, it fits into both of them.
Okay.
From a simple structure, there's only 3 opportunities you have to compete for business.
Mm-hmm.
Any business has only 3 essence parts to it. As I say, this is not taught in school.
Right.
Accumulating all my experience, these are the 3 things that really count. And constantly improve your products. If you're not doing that, your competitors are going to keep up with you, catch you. If you're not processing a competitive advantage, you're not keeping your plants full, things like that, you're going to lose money.
Mm.
And if you're not doing some sort of marketing to get people interested, well, that's kind of a problem too.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the people to close the deals, it's a different mentality. That's a problem too.
Mm.
But I kind of put this together about the first decade after I was out of school. I said, well, I'm trying to figure out what's really important here. I was taking all these business courses, but I was not focusing on how you compete in this world. And finally, I kind of came to the conclusion that when I was working with entrepreneurs, basically, there's only 3 parts to competing. And we were working with, we were sponsoring entrepreneurs at that time and to assist them in finding their first acquisition. After they found their first acquisition, to help them with additional acquisitions until the point they could go public. But the same principles that I just talked about had to be there, or the business was not going to prosper. So, well,
I had a business for 1 year. All right, back in mid 1990s. Now, it was a business. It was called Fast Forward Audio Communications, and it was I did archival work where I would transfer from the old formats to digital for people to listen to, maybe a reel-to-reel again for the first time kind of thing. And I did that for a year, and I filed my taxes thinking, I should be fine. I didn't know about a Schedule C or whatever other forms I had to fill out. I owed the government $3,000. I shut the business down because obviously I did not understand from the taxation standpoint what was required. So I said, until I do, until I can either have an accountant or a CPA, what have you, to handle these things, to make sure I don't end up in this situation again. And I'm a sole proprietor at that time. I know there are a lot of people who don't want to go into business for a lot of reasons like that. It's like, I want to open a restaurant. And I was talking with a gentleman who focused on that with a radio program of his. And he asked me this question. He says, what's the one reason that you go into business, open a restaurant? I said, well, because, you have these recipes maybe from mom or grandma or what have you that are really good, and other people have really liked them when you made them, and you want to share those with the public and obviously be able to make it profitable and so forth. And he says, no. The only reason you go into business and open a restaurant is to make money. And I thought, I have a problem with that. Now, in terms of business, is that the sole purpose for going into business? I love making widgets and providing them, for example, okay? I don't want to have to deal with all that other stuff. I just want to make widgets, the best widgets that I possibly can make. Talk to us about what should our goal be, and how do we determine what that goal should be if it's not just to make money?
Well, you want a successful operation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The numbers will tell you whether you were a successful operation or not. If the numbers say you have a lot of taxes to pay, you made a good income, then that's your success criterion. If you want to make the best, have the best restaurant on the strip, with restaurants, it's all about the quality of the food.
Mm-hmm.
If you're continuing to build that quality of food, people will come back.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not continually doing that, they're going to try other restaurants and may find them more attractive. So that's one of the three principles. You continuously improve the products that you have. All right. The other one, of course, is you have to have a competitive environment. The restaurant has to be comfortable. The food has to be hot. The food has to be really good. All this kind of stuff. And then you have to do a little marketing. Just let people know you're in business and you've got really good products. And when they come in the door, you've got to make sure that you kind of close the deal so they come back.
Yeah.
Rich, I know I've been talking about this concept for a long time, and people keep coming back at me, and I keep coming back to them. I said, well, what's wrong? What's not complete about these three principles? Yeah. It's a structure. Yeah. I agree. But business is chaos. It's not simple. Sure. Nobody said it was simple. Sure.
It's an interesting conversation we're having here with Terry Conway and his latest work that we want to share with you. We hope you will check this out. The book is entitled Business is Simple. As he's already stated, it's a misleading title, but it is intriguing because we want you to go to Terry Conway actually, it's Terry Conway -BIS, businesissimple.com. And we'll be linked to that website as well as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I am Reverend Dr. D. He is Terry Conway, and this is interesting because I know a lot of people. Matter of fact, I heard this rather interesting thing too. And again, I understand that we're talking about, of course, this three legs to this stool, so to speak, of business, the structure that you're referring to. But there are, and you have run businesses over the years that you've been in business, all the way up to international kinds of things, and made millions and millions of dollars, upwards of 60 or more million for a seafood company. But I remember seeing a story where this one mom and pop business was doing really well. Somebody came in, really liked their product, the food or whatever it was that they were providing. Says, you know what? There's a place over on the west side, there's an empty building, and you can expand, we'll go to 2 stores and then maybe 3 and 4 and so on and so on. These individuals, they're approached by someone who says, we'd like to help you to expand, give you some capital to grow it bigger and bigger and maybe go international. And they're sitting there going, well, but that's not what we want to do. We like the small business that we have going. We're not looking to make millions of dollars. Sure, that would be nice. We could do a lot with that, but we like serving the community. I live in Twin Peaks, California, 1,500 population. All right, right near Lake Arrowhead and so forth. Small little community, 1,500 people, and this particular individual or couple, maybe they like what they're doing. They're satisfied. They are pleased with the fact that people like what they're doing, and to expand to something beyond what they are really wanting. Not everybody wants to, become the next international business. Is that part of the one of those pillars or one of those legs of the structure that you're talking about, where you need to sort of decide if this is a business that, all right, today it's this big, and maybe tomorrow, yeah, I'd like to see it go bigger, or maybe tomorrow I'd like to see it basically as is, because it's just what I enjoy doing, and I'm afraid if I go big, and I don't have to go home, if I go big, then I'm going to lose some of that quality, maybe, as well as quantity, in that regard, of what I'm providing to the locals.
Richard, most of the companies I've worked with are in it for the long haul.
Okay.
They want to pass it on to the next generation. And that's all part of this book too. How you do that. It's somewhat very complicated, getting the next generation interested. But most of them want to grow because at some point competitors are catching up with them. And to protect themselves, they've got to grow. They've got to improve their products. They maybe have to expand. Mm-hmm. If they're in it for the long haul. Now, if they're not, well, this is what I want to do till I retire. That's a different scenario.
Yeah.
So the subtitle of this book, Business is Simple, is called From a Family Cottage Business to World Processing and Markets. Okay, that's for somebody who's kind of interested in growing. The story is about starting with a cottage business with one telephone line, but a good product and a good brand, taking that national and then taking it international. That's the story. Now, it was following that same structure. So I said, I started out with chaos after I bought the first business, and I had to reinvent it. And I used that structure. Okay, guys, we've got to improve the product. We've got to put in some automation to to improve our costs. We've got to do a little marketing, and somebody's got to close the deals, which I had to do. But that's for a company that's kind of growth oriented. It's for an entrepreneur who's borrowed money, has to make a go of it. I have not really dealt in that arena of one restaurant at a time.
So is it true then, based upon what we're talking about here, in terms of the subtitle, as you've just referenced it, From a Family Cottage Business to World Processing and Markets, that in spite of what some people in positions of power and what have you want us to either believe or change, we live in a global marketplace. Right. There is no more national anything. I mean, yeah, you've got your local and national businesses, but this is a global market. I mean, there are certain things that aren't even made in the United States. Because maybe we stopped making them, because it's cheaper to make them outside the country. Although I have to then ask the question, if it is cheaper when they're made overseas, what about the cost of shipping them back here to be sold? I guess if you broke it down by unit, it probably isn't that much, and it's still cheaper to have it made overseas. But we're in a global marketplace, regardless of what anybody chooses to say. The reality is, not the perception. This is a global endeavor that some folks are going to take on. I mean, I think about folks who came over here at the turn of the 19th to the 20th centuries, came across to Ellis Island, and right. started these small mom and pop businesses that today, if they've stayed in business, they're now multinational or international corporations. Started out as a mom and pop storefront kind of thing, and now they're huge. That's just where we are, right?
Well, in my case, I never got huge. I got up to about 60 million. Mm-hmm. But I had a limited resource, a limited kind of product, and so forth. But it was a cottage business, as I said, with one telephone line, one product. But it had a good brand. It was a very good product. The supply of the resource kind of left the Chesapeake Bay. We had to do something. We had to reinvent the business. So I basically bought a ticket to Bangkok, met a friend of mine that was recommended by somebody in Hong Kong. And because we had a brand, and because I was there as the owner, somebody got interested over there in Bangkok to help us establish the first business overseas, which we did. And it was a little bit of chaotic too. Had a problem with our original landlord. We had to reset up some other place. But in the long haul, we have ended up in making products in 7 different countries. We have a competitive advantage. We've been able to maintain the brand and the premium brand and the quality by employing food technologists, local food technologists in each country. They're in all our plants to keep the brand healthy, keep the product consistent. But that's how we had to play defense working in foreign countries. Now, working in foreign countries, if you don't play defense, bad things are going to happen to you.
Yeah.
So, and they happened to me, and I made some mistakes. I got into some countries that I shouldn't have been in because there were civil wars going on.
Yeah.
I couldn't make it. So,
well, we're going to continue talking with Terry Conway about this Business is Simple, the book, and we encourage you to get a copy by going to his website. And that website, once again, is Terry Conway BIS for businesses simple.com. We'll be linked to that website as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Terry Conway, my guest. And Terry, you had used a phrase that I wanted to touch upon, and I'm going to rephrase it a little bit. In this world that we live in today, and this has been happening as long as man has been in business, and that's been centuries, obviously.
Yeah.
There is a phrase that is often used when new technologies come along. It was the Industrial Revolution way back when. Then one of the other elements was that came into vogue in the mid-late 1900s was robotics. And now in the 21st century, there's AI for artificial intelligence. That brings about this one concept I would love for you to talk about in this context, about one having to, whether it's an individual or a company or a corporation, having to sort of reinvent oneself.
Yes.
Talk to us about why that's so important. Look, it's like, I don't know if you've ever heard of this book. It's called The Goal. And it was written by an Israeli author who had it produced into a dramatization, which is available on Audible. And I have both the cassette series when I originally got the book, but I have it on my Audible. And it basically speaks to this manufacturing plant that processes whatever it processes in this place. And the message I got from it was, just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean we have to. Talk to us about that.
Well, in a way, competition will force you to reinvent part of your businesses, some of your divisions, sometimes the whole company. Mm-hmm. But strangely enough, this structure that I was talking about, competing for revenues, those 3 ways, is a great way to look at your business, to reinvent it, reinvent your financial function, your sales function, your whole company. It has to take place for you to keep up because the world changes. Your competitors are coming after you. And to keep up, you've got to continually reinvent yourself. The little company I bought had to be completely reinvented. When I lost my supply, going to Asia, ended up with almost no contact, the whole business had to be reinvented from scratch. It happens all the time. And if you fight it, you're not going to be around for the long haul. You're not going to have anything for the next generation to pick up and move it even further, which to me it's got to be for any family business, they've got to focus on the next generation and keeping the business alive, just in case some of the next generation wants to step in and operate or make the business better. So reinventing is it's a hot word right now. Everybody's talking about reinventing. Well, it's been going on for some time.
Mm-hmm.
One of the fellows I used to work with worked for Marriott. He said, well, that's all we do in Marriott is we reinvent different concepts, different price points,
Right.
and reinvent the facilities we have and more luxury, less luxury. It's a constant activity. You can't fight it. You have to be part of it. And these three concepts, competing for revenues that I talk about, is a great way to look at any kind of reinvention that has to take place.
Yeah.
It's the same three things. You're competing for revenues, and that's how you do it. Now, I think I'm coming back with a little. I'm not answering your questions as directly as I'd like to, Richard, but I'm talking about businesses that have to reinvent themselves if they want to stay around.
Yeah.
They have to be looking at the long term. They have to have a structure for reinventing their businesses. And the structure that I talked about, kind of continuously improving your product and make sure you can operate at a competitive advantage. If you have to go overseas for a cheaper price, fine. You have to do some marketing, get people. But most important, you have to have people know how to close deals.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody likes to close deals.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I want to ask you about a phrase that is used. I want to touch upon this that goes back almost to 20 years. Almost. The phrase that was often used by about some of the major corporations globally was, they're too big to fail. All right? Too big to fail. And I always understood our economic system, at least here in the United States, is that if you make a mistake, all right, let's say you don't reinvent or you don't follow through on one of those three pillars that you're talking about, your company, it's going to go under, period. That is the way it works. It's a survival. And now, by the way, this is funny. Darwin did not say survival of the fittest. He said survival of the strongest. Some will say, oh, it's semantics. It's the same thing. Well, not from what I understand, but be that as it may. So it's like back then, people said, oh, no, these companies are too big to fail. And of course, they began to fail. And what happens is that the government decided, well, we're gonna bail them out because
Right.
we can't afford to have them lose. And I'm sitting here going, what? Wait a minute. That's not the American way. That's not the capitalist way. They screwed up. They made mistakes. They deserve to fail in one sense. Okay. And that's just an observation. And I'm just wondering if that is the way that a business that wants to grow, that wants to become multinational, if you will, that wants to be a bigger business than they are today, that they have to accept that level of responsibility that if I make a mistake, I don't reinvent, or I don't learn how to close, or dealing with the other two pillars, I'm gone. I'm done. It's over. And I'm going to have to start all over again, which many, many people have done. They've had businesses that have gone under. They've died. They went away. They don't exist anymore. But the individuals involved with those businesses or companies or corporations, they were resilient enough to turn things around and, if necessary, start over, learning the lessons that they learned from the previous experience to make the new business a better success. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, let me refer to the Chrysler Corporation as an example. So they made automobiles. They were not particularly efficient in making them. They had the unions weren't working with them as well as they could have. And the Japanese came along and made a higher quality product. They continually improved their products. And they figured out a way to make them a little more efficiently and cheaper in Tennessee and places like that. And they've survived and they've done quite well, but they had to reinvent their Japanese business. Now, Chrysler didn't do that, but the Japanese had these little low quality products that were too small for the American market. They knew they had to continuously improve them, improve the quality. They had to make them at a kind of a competitive advantage, which they did. And then they had to do some marketing. They have a lot of money for marketing these days. And then when they hit to the showrooms, they had to have people who knew how to complete the sale. Now, I don't really know what happened at Chrysler, but they did not have competitive products. They did during one period of time, but they kind of lost out. The quality was not there. People had complaints about them. They did not keep up. They didn't reinvent their whole quality system. So yes, that happens. And Chrysler is now down to just one vehicle, their minivan, which has been a great product for them. But that's what happens if you're not willing to look at your business and constantly reinvent it. You have to constantly do that. Richard, you're a famous podcaster, okay? But you have to get better all the time. You have to be better than you are 10 years from now, and you got to be better than you are. You have more interesting guests. You have all this kind of thing. But if you don't do that, your competitors are going to catch up with you. I think. Now, maybe not, but generally they catch up with you. And you're doing this in a very efficient way, and that's good. I don't know about how you market, but there is marketing involved in terms of the quality of podcasts that you put together. People want to listen. And then when you get on the air, like I am, you kind of have to close the deal. So, it's just the way the world is. It's competition.
Right.
Every business competes for revenues. They only have three really ways to do it: the better products, cheaper processing, better marketing, and closing deals. There is almost no other way to do that.
There was a time when I would not buy American made because the quality was so bad. I interviewed a gentleman some years ago who wrote a book called Built-in Obsolescence.
Right.
I don't understand why they would do that. Aren't there enough natural disasters and fires and all of these different things that, why would I want to buy your refrigerator? And this was sort of the example we had, that only lasts maybe 3, 4, 5 years. You're only going to put a 1-year warranty on it, like you're not really backing your product. Whereas I can buy a refrigerator made somewhere else that they have a 10-year warranty on it. I'd rather buy that refrigerator than yours because you don't believe in your product because you're not giving a warranty, just as an example. And then and then there's the complaint these days about how we need to bring manufacturing back to the United States. And it's the whole issue going into the whole subject we won't go into of the business of tariffs to try to force these overseas companies to come to the United States, build their factories, and build their products here. And it's like, how is that going to happen? Because you can't compete as far as the dollars being paid to the workers to manufacture them. You can't really pay them by comparison because the product. This is the other thing that you talked about, improving the quality. My wife and I have bought a trailer some years ago, a 20 by 10 foot trailer that we towed behind our Ford F-150. And from the very beginning, I realized that that was a mistake. And what I began to realize, and I began to do some research, I should have done it beforehand, was that they make trailers and RVs and so forth out of cardboard, essentially. I mean, so poorly that it's constantly needing maintenance because of this and that and the other. And I'm thinking, why can't you make these things with quality and charge what needs to be charged, because if the person can afford it, fine, instead of trying to accommodate what would you consider the lowest common denominator, and that is the people who can least afford them. And they're junk. They're literally junk.
Some competitor probably came along and started making a quality product.
Yeah.
And that company did not keep up. They just said, well, we're not going to change. Business is great right now. We're all comfortable. We're not going to change. We're not going to improve our product. But if you don't improve a product, a competitor is definitely going to come along and do a better job. Make a quality product. He's probably going to do it. He may be able to do it at almost the same price by using different materials or different fasteners or whatever it is. So those companies kind of drift away.
Yeah. Yeah. Terry Conway is my guest here on the program, and we're talking about his book, which is Business is Simple. We hope you'll get a copy. Go to terryconway-bis.com. We'll be linked to that website as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. You know, Terry, you mentioned just a few moments ago in terms of my work and what I do and the competitive aspects. And I will tell you that I've been operations manager for a number of stations over my career. This is my perspective, and I adhere to it even to this day, to what I'm doing. I don't compete with or against anybody else or any other station. My focus has been to make what I am doing better today than it was yesterday.
Right.
And better tomorrow than it was today. I don't need my competitors to show me that maybe they have something that's going on that's better. I know, here's sort of the clue. I know that I've got to reinvent. And you used the word earlier. If I start feeling comfortable and at ease, that's when I know, I got to make a shift. I got to make a change. I've got to make an adjustment, because usually what ends up happening is if I wait too long, the universe has this funny way of bringing about the discomfort and saying, okay, you knew the sign of feeling comfortable. And, okay, if you're not going to heed that guidance, well, then we're going to help you out here. Boom. We're going to shake up the apple cart, so to speak. And now you gotta work on making it better. Are there those kinds of signs that we are shown along the way as we are in business that some people will heed immediately and others people wait until sometimes maybe all the lug nuts come off of the rim and the tire starts to fall off the axle?
Right. Well, I've seen that happen too. Well, of course. Now, there's an old saying that's not really obsolete. It's been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. Your competitors will tell you what to do, and the numbers will tell you what to do. It's a very simple phrase, but it's often quite true. Mm-hmm. Now, you're in the entertainment business, basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
There are competitors out there who are doing more things to go after that entertainment dollar than you are. Well, maybe not. But if they're not, and there's no reason to start reinventing yourself now, but keep an eye on it. Mm-hmm. Keep an eye on your competitors in the entertainment business. So, and the numbers will tell you whether you're sliding up, down, or sideways. The number of people who listen to your podcast or are impressed with it or send in good ratings. That's another indicator of whether this is a problem for you or not. Mm-hmm. But someday it will be.
Yeah.
I promise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that stands with my father. Even before I learned to drive, and I didn't start driving until I was 38, because I was legally blind and I couldn't get a driver's license and so forth. So I bicycled everywhere. But my father instilled in me this message. He said, if you do the regular maintenance on that car, like changing the oil every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, whatever the manufacturer suggests and so forth, checking the tire pressure, and the list goes on. When you pay that car off, you won't be making any more payments, not even to the mechanic for major repairs that would have come about if you hadn't done the regular maintenance. And I think that is kind of what you're talking about in this respect, that we need to be, I don't want to say uncomfortable, but we need to heed the signs that come along in order to, if we want this company, this business, this venture, whatever it is, to go on until maybe we do. We're doing this because we want to set aside enough for retirement for our, myself, my spouse, whoever, and so forth, or go on vacations and so on and so on and so on, whatever the reasons are. So that seems to me, my father had some good advice that I've incorporated, not just in the cars that we've had over the last, that I've had over the last almost 20 years. And I can't believe how many I've had already.
Well, he was thinking about the long haul.
Yeah.
Yes. And any business, especially any family business, has to think about the long haul, passing it on to the next generation,
Mm-hmm.
or selling your vehicle to somebody in your family, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do that for family business.
Yeah.
Either that or be consigned. Well, when I retire, I just want to sell it and get rid of it. And that's not the attitude that I see with very many family companies anymore. They really want to pass it on.
Yeah.
They want to have something of value to give to the next generation.
Yeah.
So the people with the long haul generally do quite well, I think.
Yeah. Because that's our perspective, is the long haul. Yeah.
Right.
And they keep that in mind. I'm reading a couple of interesting books right now. One of them is with a gentleman that is doing some coaching with me in terms of helping me to sort of shift my mindset. The other one was recommended by a good friend of mine. He and I are doing another podcast called Body of Health, and his name is Dennis Henson. He's an inspirational writer, but his main endeavor is in real estate where he lives. But he suggested this other book. The first one that he suggested was The Science of Getting Rich. And I've been reading that. And one of the things that is talked about is knowing where you want to go. It's kind of what we just talked about in terms of, hey, we're going to go for the long haul. And he uses this example where he took a map into his real estate class one day and laid it out on his desk. And he looked up at the class and said, "Where do you want to go?" And they kind of looked at him dumbfounded, like, "What do you mean? Where do you want to go?" So, "Well, yeah, where do you want to go?" And they didn't understand the question. And he illuminated the question by saying, "We have a map here. All right. But the map does you no good unless you know where you want to go."
Yeah.
And that seems to me the first, shall we say, the first step in what you're talking about in terms of dealing with these three pillars is don't even bother going into business unless you know where you want to go. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, absolutely. So let me tell you a little bit of a story. When I was a teenager, I was fascinated with business, be able to make products that people would actually buy. And I told my father, I'm fascinated with business, never a boring day. I want to make these kind of products that people like to buy. He said, "Okay, now here's the steps. You've got to get a first-class business education. Second of all, you got to work for people who know how to compete," which came to pass. And then you have to take a position of responsibility in a company, which I did at age 31, CFO. And then you have to assess whether you've got what it takes to own your own business. And if you doubt that, you shouldn't try it, because you will have a life of hardship and trying to make it work, and it's not worth the effort. So yes, I thought I was kind of well directed from the very beginning with that kind of path.
Yeah.
I did work for people who really knew how to compete. which as I say in school, they never even brought up the subject. But that was really a lifesaver for me.
Did you ever work for stinkers, ones that just had no clues to what they were doing, and you kind of could see the writing on the wall? This business ain't going nowhere because they have no clue.
Yes, one of the clients I had in my first job was in an obsolete. It's in a small town in Western Maryland. As trying to be a Walmart. He couldn't buy right. He couldn't merchandise right. He couldn't do anything right. And he just said, I don't know where I'm failing, why I'm failing. I just don't know. So I tried to work with them a little bit. Okay. Do you have, are you keeping up with the quality of products in your store? Well, I don't have the same discounts as Walmart or somebody else has. Well, okay. What's next? Is your facility friendly, easy, comfortable? Well, not really. It's really old. Well, I'm kind of running out of ideas here. You can advertise all you want, but if you advertise a product that nobody wants, you're absolutely wasting your money. So he said, well, maybe I should just sell it or close it down. Well, at this point, if you haven't made plans to keep going for the long haul, maybe that's your best alternative. So,
well,
but
it
happens all the time.
Mm-hmm. And maybe that is the better thing to do and just start over. And it actually raises a question I've asked a number of people. I always love the response to this question. How valuable is failure as compared to success in business?
It's not valuable at all.
Not at all.
I don't think so. If you fail in business, you weren't being thorough when you got into the business, for one thing. Now, thoroughness is not part of your DNA. I'm not sure there's anything you can rescue out of that.
Okay.
Because if you had these three principles and you really examined them and you're really thorough about it, you should be able to figure out why it didn't work. I have a relative who had that situation. He said, if I would have read your book, I wouldn't have made all these mistakes. Okay, well, sorry about that, Mr. Relative. So I don't know. Do you really? You put so much energy into an operation, it kind of drains you a little bit. Do you really learn something if you go into business and banking or something like that? Mm-hmm. Maybe there's some things that transfer, but not too many. Usually it's a sign that you were not very thorough. You didn't have the right structure to really examine what you were doing. Mm-hmm. So,
is there a step or multiple steps that you have used to determine what your life's purpose is, where you should be at any given point along your life's path that serves you? And again, we're not talking egotistically here. We're talking about how it gives you a sense of satisfaction that you're doing something that feeds your soul, shall we say, but is also helping other people. It's also serving other people, whether it is a product or a service.
Absolutely. So the best thing about being in business, you're providing employment to a lot of people. Now, if you can provide employment that you have a lot of respect, that you're taking care of these people, you're giving them a fair wage, you're treating them with respect and so forth, it works. But basically, businesses provide employment. And if you can do that with a little better respect, mm-hmm. so forth, it really helps me a lot. Mm. So I thought I made in this 55 years, real effort to respect everybody in the company, no matter what they were doing. Give them encouragement, appreciate their contribution, I was giving employment, but I was giving what I would call respectful employment. That gave me a buzz.
Yeah.
Okay.
Business is simple. Terry Conway BIS.com is the website. This is Tell Me Your Story. I'm Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan. He is Terry Conway, and this to me it's fascinating. I don't know a lot about business. I certainly remember when I went to vocational school back when I was 20. Oh my God, 46 years ago. And one of the things they said was when you go to work for a radio station, learn everything you can about every single department. All right?
Yep.
And then once you have sort of done that, you've kind of gleaned from all of these different departments, then you can start thinking about what it is that you'd really like to do in the industry. Some people even find out, I don't even want to be in this industry, and I understand that. You can then specialize, as it were. You think that's probably the same good advice you would give to anybody else just starting out, maybe as an employee looking for work in a business, as to whether or not they want to continue and maybe even expand to the extent of maybe opening their own? Because a lot of the people that I have associated with in the industry of radio specifically have often talked about owning their own radio station, and
Right.
They're not alone. I've thought about it too.
Sure. Well, that can work in some cases, but if you're stuck in the accounting department for 10 years, that might be is not what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But when you look at any business to go to work for, there are what I call really two important values that operation ought to have. Number one, trust is so important. And a business that values trust, they're going to be a great place to work. And the other thing is, do they really encourage what I would call free-flowing communication to grow, to come up with innovations, use those innovations for competitive advantages? You find those two basic values in almost any organization, and they're going to be fun to work with. So whether they rotate,
Go ahead.
I don't know whether that works or not. Sometimes it does. But.
What about loyalty? The thought has occurred to me. It's great. I mean, I'm an avid baseball fan, and I grew up in the 60s and 70s and 80s watching baseball. And until we got I'm originally from Phoenix, so when we got our baseball team, I'm thinking, oh yeah, I never thought we'd ever get a major league team in Phoenix. Right. Oh, now we've got one. How cool! And then I'm thinking, yeah, but it's going to be years, maybe a decade or more before they ever see postseason, let alone World Series play. And then 4 years later, we beat the best team in the league for decades, the Yankees, in the World Series in 2001. And the one thing that has always troubled me is the loyalty that the players had as I was a kid growing up. And they had loyalty to the team, and they wanted to stay with that team. But not anymore. I guess it was, free agency, I guess, changed all that. So what occurred to me was this question in terms of loyalty. Which do you think is more important? To be loyal to the company that you are working for, or to be loyal to yourself and what it is that you really want to do and want out of life in terms, and I'll use this brief example. I've had people I've trained on the console, right? And suddenly they come to me and say, hey, I got this other job and so on and so forth, and I need to take this other job because the money is a whole lot better than what you folks are paying. But I wasn't insulted by that because we pay what we pay. But I told them, I says, you go after what you need to go after, all right? Don't worry about us. We'll be just fine. But go after what you feel you need to do. So talk to me about this aspect of loyalty to company and to self.
Well, companies have to work at developing loyalty with their associates. a lot comes back to respect. It comes back to the values of that particular organization. Are they a trusted company? Can you trust that if you work hard and do well, that you will start moving up with more responsibility? Is it one of those free-flowing companies where conversation is appreciated and they appreciate your ideas? And are you helping innovate with them? Those are really loyalty builders if a company encourages that. Now, if they don't encourage it, okay, well then maybe it's all about the money. But there's some value for a company working at loyalty and also for the individual, the associate, to be happy with the loyalty. But I grew up with a friend who said, money isn't everything, but it's way ahead of what's ever in second place.
I love the line, they say money doesn't buy you happiness, but I'd like to try.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's trust and loyalty, very important factors when either going to work for a business, a company, or when you're running one. And I think those are two elements. And then, of course, the three pillars and the structure you're talking about when it comes to the structure. Business is simple, the structure that you've laid out for us here on the program. And I really do appreciate that. And I want to thank you for sharing all of this as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Reverend Dr. D and Terry Conway. And Terry, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the program. I know that we've got to cut it short here, but I thank you so much for being a part of what we're doing here.
Can I give you a final word?
Please.
Okay. In the business world, you have to balance your family life with your work, period. Second of all, you have to keep yourself fit. Business will need your stamina someday. So keep yourself reasonably fit. Keep trust as the cornerstone of everything you do. Encourage this free-flowing communication to innovate and use those innovations for competitive advantages. And how about luck? Well, if you're out looking for a solution, you're going to get lucky. If you just say, well, luck came my way or didn't come my way, no. You got to be out looking for a solution to some sort of problem or growth. Yeah. And then it happens. Yeah. All right. Richard, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. I have three final questions that I ask all of my guests. I'll ask them of you right away here so that we can move on because I know you've got a busy schedule as well. The first one is, who is Terry Conway?
Well, I call it a family man, Eagle Scout, veteran, CFO, international entrepreneur, and now I've written my first book to summarize the values that I saw for my 55-year career, and all of those aspects, but mainly as an owner of a company. So,
what gets you up in the morning? What gets you up in the morning?
The excitement of making an improvement in the enterprise that I happen to be associated with. All right. When this podcast, I said, I've got to make this the best podcast Richard has ever encountered. Okay. That was my goal this morning when I woke up. And I made an outline of all the things that I thought were important. So that got me going. I can make an improvement in somebody's life, some activity.
Well, I thank you for that. And our final question is, what was your best day?
Well, 62 years ago, I came across a lady sliding down a very long banister who was sober. She landed at my feet, looked her eyeball to eyeball, and said, "Holy smokes, who is that tall redhead?" and I gotta find out. Well, that was we've been married 62 years. Yes, that was my best day.
Well,
We have
congratulations.
5 children. We have 12 grandchildren.
Oh.
Life has been a joy. So
Well, my parents almost made it 62. My father passed away a couple of years ago at the age of 92. And
wow.
my mother will be 92 this September. My goal is to live to be 100 and continue to do what I'm doing, and then expanding that as well, and hopefully making a difference in this world for the better. And thank you for helping us to do that.
Richard, I think you're doing it. I really, this is a very professional podcast. I respect that very much. You're doing a great job.
Well,
You're asking great questions. You're treating people with respect. I mean, you're doing all the things right. And thank you for treating me the way you're treated.
Well, you are very welcome. And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for being in my life and letting me be in yours. To my brother, Michael, congratulations, Father. And to my dear friend, Zorro, aho, aho.